Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Your Best Unleashed. I am your host, Stephanie Jackman. I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to join me today. Your Best Unleashed is a live broadcast where our goal is to help give you practical skills and strategies and tips and provide relevant information for real life, everyday challenges. Our desire is to help you be your best mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So, again, I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to join me today. Thank you for those of you that are regular viewers. Please take the opportunity to share this link with your communities. If you have not subscribed, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification button so then you will know when we are on live for Your Best Unleashed. So I'm excited that you chose to take time to join me today. I'm thankful, I'm grateful that you took the time to join me today. And this is part 2 of the power of gratitude. So, we're doing a 2-part series on the power of gratitude. So, we are going to jump right in. Now, if you have not seen episode 1 of this series, I am going to encourage you to go back and view episode 1. We talked about what gratitude is. We discussed the benefits of gratitude around how it can improve our relationships, how it can improve our perspective on life. It can reduce some mental and emotional distress that we may have. So I want you to make sure that you go back and view episode 1 of this series of the power of gratitude. So we are going to jump right in terms of episode 2 of this 2-part series, the power of gratitude. Well, some of you may be saying, Stephanie, what is gratitude? I'm going to take the time to define it for today's purposes. For today's purposes and for today's episode, the power of gratitude is a state of being thankful and the readiness to show appreciation for what is. The key is to show appreciation for what is. So, gratitude really is a mindset that we have to go into. On the first episode of this 2-part series, you remember I brought my Play-Doh out and I spoke with you about having to shape and mold a mindset of gratitude. That's what we have to do, okay? We also have to choose it. And we spoke about that in episode 1 of this 2-part series. We have to choose gratitude. So it's key and critical that we make the choice to choose gratitude. Again, gratitude is not designed to minimize your pain or your agony, but it is really designed to be able to help take away some of the weight of some of the suffering that you may be experiencing. Okay, so it's going to take some of that weight away if we can look at a different perspective, if we can choose a different perspective around the season of life, perhaps that we're in. So, for today's purposes of Your Best Unleashed, I have 5 tips that I want to provide for you around how do we choose to live in the house of gratitude, because again, it is a choice. So I want to give you 5 strategies and 5 tips around that. Okay. So first and foremost, I am a big proponent of gratitude journals. and I have shown you my gratitude journals in the past. And so I want to talk a little bit about how you utilize gratitude journals so that they can be the most effective. After our part one of the power of gratitude, I had a dear friend of mine reach out to me and she said, Stephanie, I am going to pick up a gratitude journal this weekend. And I was so thankful and grateful to hear that from my dear friend because oftentimes we can just forget or we can lack mindfulness around the things that we have to be thankful and grateful for. So when we're talking about gratitude journals, one thing that I really want to emphasize about utilizing gratitude journals is use them 2 to 3 times per week. You don't want to use them on a daily basis. Look at your gratitude journal as love letters to God so that we are demonstrating to Him our thankfulness, our appreciation for what He has done, how He has blessed us, and the many blessings in which He has bestowed upon us. So if we can write in our gratitude journals 2 to 3 times per week, it can again show that we are appreciative of the many blessings that have been bestowed upon us. They're love letters to God. That's how I look at my gratitude journals. All right. Point number two. Point number two that we're going to look at is share your gratitude with others. Let's be mindful to share our gratitude with others. Now, again, expressing gratitude can certainly strengthen our relationships. It can definitely strengthen our relationships. So, the key is the next time that someone does something for you, something kind, something thoughtful, make sure that you acknowledge that, demonstrate that. A dear friend of mine, she gave me a thank you so much card. And part of this thank you so much card was really as a result of the start of Your Best Unleashed. She gave me a card. Now, there's nothing wrong with text messages, but there's something about a card. And not only did she give me a card, but she hand delivered the card to me. And she expressed to me how thankful and grateful she was for our friendship, as well as how she was thankful and grateful for the launch of Your Best Unleashed. So, as a result, I was thankful and grateful for her expression in her card. It's key and critical that we acknowledge what individuals have done, expressions of appreciation for the relationships that we're cultivating with one another. That is so key. So I want to leave you with a question. How are you demonstrating and expressing appreciation and gratitude for those individuals that are near and dear and close to you and that are in your life? We want to be mindful not to take anyone or anything for granted. It is also key and critical that we notice how genuine are our expressions of gratitude. So, are they just mere afterthoughts? Oh, thank you. Or are they just hasty, habitual responses that we have? Oh, thanks. Thank you so much. Or are they really, really sincere? So let's be sincere. Let's be thoughtful. Let's be intentional and deliberate about how we are sharing our gratitude with and towards others. So that's point number two. let's move on to point number 3. Use visual reminders to demonstrate and to remind us of the many things that we have to be thankful and grateful for. Now, I want to remind us that 2 primary barriers to gratefulness and gratitude is being forgetful. So being forgetful of the things that we have to be thankful and grateful for, and a lack of self-awareness around the things that we have to be thankful and grateful for. So forgetfulness is really around a lack of observation or visibility, and the lack of self-awareness is, again, our human nature to take things for granted. So I want to provide you with strategy number 3 of using visual reminders. So on my desk, often I have 2 visual reminders as of late about being thankful and grateful. Again, I'm thankful and grateful, and I have gratitude for the friends that I have in my life. I'm very thankful for them. Why do I say that? Because again, they demonstrate expressions of thank you so much. And those are things that I don't want to take for granted. 2 other friends of mine have given me, my dear friend in New Jersey has given me may you know gratitude cards. And I keep them on my dresser. I keep them in my workspace. I have split the deck of cards and I keep some of the cards in one office location and I keep other cards in the second office location. These are visual reminders of not only me being thankful for my dear friend, Sabrina, but also the things that these cards express in terms of me knowing gratitude. Next, a dear friend of mine, after part 1 of this 2-part series of the power of gratitude, I had another dear friend. I'm telling you, I'm so thankful to God for my friendships that she gave me this little book and I put it on my desk and it says, live each day with gratitude. And not only did she share this keepsake with me, but she also texted me and she showed me that on her workspace and on her desk, she also has a book where she lives each day intentionally and purposefully in a spirit of gratitude. So I am thankful and grateful that I have many friends that are choosing to live in the house of gratitude. So it is key and critical that we have reminders because, again, the reminders will help trigger the thoughts of gratitude. Oh, yeah, here's a reminder. Oh, yeah, I remember when. I remember when. So it is key and critical that we have those visual reminders. Another visual reminder is the visibility of actual people in our lives that we can be thankful and grateful for. And we can express that gratitude. Oftentimes, another visual reminder can be the things, again, that haven't happened to us, the doors that God has closed to us, the visible person, the unhoused person on the corner. That is a visual reminder of the things that we have to be grateful and thankful for. The unhoused person on the corner. The visual reminder where we're in public spaces, we're in society, and we can see individuals who have visible limitations or visible physical disabilities. So as we're walking and we see other individuals that may need assisted and support in terms of walking or mobility, we must be thankful and gratitude and show expressions of gratitude. You know, I like to share stories. I like to be transparent. I like to be personable on Your Best Unleashed. So, here's a story for you. I came home yesterday and my husband greeted me at the door with excitement and enthusiasm and in a spirit of gratitude. He shared with me on yesterday that he had the opportunity and the privilege to be able to have an experiential luncheon. And what that was around was that he had the opportunity to have an experience, and it was an unsighted experience. So he had a 45-minute lunch and he was unsighted, he was blindfolded, and he had to use the assistance of another individual to help guide him through a 45-minute lunch. And he came to me and he said, "Steph, I am so thankful and grateful." And he said, "I even realized that I took for granted my sight, because with him having to sit through a 45-minute unsighted luncheon caused him to really hone in on the fact that he had to, one, become very vulnerable and depend on his sighted aid to be able to walk him through the 45-minute luncheon. So he had to be very vulnerable. It required him to have to trust this sighted person that was leading him and guiding him and telling him where his glass was, where the condiments were, what the options for his meal entree were. When he had to go into the restroom and he had to wash his hands, where the soap was, where the nozzles were for the water. So all of that required him to be vulnerable, required him to increase his trust on his sighted guide. It also required him to have to increase in his other senses. So his hearing, his smell, his touch. And he was just so in awe and amazed at how he was able to identify that he really took the sense of sight for granted. And he was so appreciative and demonstrated great value and appreciation to those individuals that are unsighted. So again, the visibility of a person can allow us to show more gratitude, as well as the absence of something, even whether it's temporary, that we can then show gratitude and appreciation more so, even in just a 45-minute simulation. Okay. So, again, point number three is the use of visual reminders to demonstrate gratitude and to remind us of the things that we have to be thankful and grateful for. All right, point number four, around choosing to live in the house of gratitude. Point number four. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have to watch our language. So point number four, watch your language. Now, Stephanie, what do you mean by that? Many of you may be saying, what do you mean by that? Well, watching your language is really key. Individuals that choose to live in a house of gratitude are very mindful of their language. Grateful people have a particular language that they utilize where it's more other centered versus self centered. So, other centered meaning thank you, other centered meaning I appreciate you. Go back to the episode one of this two-part series, and I talked with married couples. I said there are some phrases from my professional opinion that we can utilize in our marriages that I believe as a professional that would help decrease our divorce rate probably by 50% at least if we chose to utilize other centered language. So it's key and critical that we're watching our language as grateful individuals. We want to be less self centered and more other focused. So we want to be able to focus on the God given things, God given blessings, God given talents, not our own abilities, but the talents in which God has given to us. That is key. So watching our language, not being so self-centered and self-focused, but more so other-focused. I thank you. I'm appreciative of who you are. I'm appreciative of what you do. I love you. All of those are terms around other focused. Point number five. We're at point number five. I want us to look at the model of subtraction, not just addition. So choosing to live in the house of gratitude, let's try subtraction, not just addition. Oftentimes we can be grateful as things are being added to us. Things are being added to us. But can we be grateful and demonstrate and operate in a spirit of gratitude when we're looking at subtraction? So what do I mean by that? Consider what life would be without that certain individual in your life. At this point, almost 14 years married, I can't imagine what my life would be without my husband. That's what I mean when I say try subtraction, not always addition. I can't imagine what life would be without my husband. I can't imagine what life would be without my friends, without my friends, without my friends. I'm grateful and thankful that they're in my life, right? What would life be without those special individuals? What would life be without our families? Yep, every family has dysfunction, mine included. But I can't imagine what my life would be without my family. That's operating in subtraction and not just addition. Think about what it would be without. Think about, again, what life would be without a certain ability. Going back to the non sighted simulation that I shared with you that my husband had on yesterday. What would life be without a certain ability, a certain mobility, physical mobility, a certain intellectual abilities, certain cognitive abilities? So if we can think about it from not having it, now that we have it, we can certainly express and choose gratitude despite whatever season that we may be in, ladies and gentlemen. It is key and critical that we look at the subtraction, that we're thankful that we escaped some things. We're thankful that we were able to avoid some things. We were thankful that God didn't open up that door for us. Even when I wanted it, He chose not to open up that door because He knew that that was not the route for me to take at that particular point. All right. So, those are 5 strategies and 5 tips around choosing to live in the house of gratitude. Now, in our first episode of this series, part 1 of the power of gratitude, I spoke with married couples. In this episode, I want to speak to parents. Oftentimes, I will interact with parents, particularly of teens. And those parents will say to me, Stephanie, my teenager is so ungrateful. They need to be more grateful. And so, what I share with parents is a couple of things that I share with them. If we want our teenagers to be more thankful and grateful, if we want them to choose to live in a house of gratitude, as parents, we need to look at 2 things. The first thing we need to look at is we want our teenagers to be able to become more accountable and take more responsibility for their actions. That piece is key and critical. If we want our teenagers to be more accountable, to take more responsibility, and to demonstrate more gratitude, we want them to be accountable and responsible. So, what does that look like? We have to allow them to take more responsibility for the mistakes and the errors that they make in their lives as teenagers. Now, I'm not talking about 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, I'm talking about teenagers. It is key and critical that we allow them the space to take responsibility for some of the choices and decisions that they make. Now, as parents, of course, we want to rescue our children, we want to protect them. But again, we can't protect them from everything. We cannot protect our children from everything. It is key and critical that some pains they're going to have to go through so that they can then develop strong and healthy coping skills and coping mechanisms for life. So the first point I want to say to parents, if we want our children or even grandchildren to be more appreciative and to demonstrate gratitude, we have to be willing to allow them to take more responsibility and accountability for some of the mistakes and the errors that they make. Many of those mistakes and errors are not going to take them out, okay? But they will help strengthen their coping mechanisms and coping strategies to be able to deal with life on life's terms. Okay. The second point that I like to share with parents around wanting their teenagers to demonstrate and operate more in a spirit of gratitude is we have to stop giving our teenagers everything, right? There's some things that they need to work for. They have to have some skin in the game, if you will. So I had to learn that growing up as a teenager, and my mom truly emphasized that. So, two things my mom really emphasized with me as a teenager was one, natural consequences. That goes back to me being accountable and responsible. And two, having some skin in the game. So, natural consequences. My mom would say to me, if you leave your bike in the driveway and I don't see it, perhaps I'm going to run over it. Okay. What happens if I leave it in the driveway and she doesn't see it? She's going to run over it. Then I don't have a bike. So she's told me number of times not to leave it in the driveway. I do it, and then what? She runs over it with the car. Now I don't have a bike. That doesn't mean she's going to go out immediately and get me a new one. Perhaps she's going to make me earn having to um, get a new bike, or I go without for some time. Another natural consequence, and this one really happened. A natural consequence for me as a teenager, again, the bike. The bike was, if you do not, again, we're talking 80s, right? I'm an 80s child, 70s and 80s child. So as a teenager in the 80s, my mom would tell me you need to lock your bike up. You need to put the bike in the garage. You need to put it in the backyard. Because if you don't, a natural consequence is if someone sees it, perhaps they may take it and it's going to run along with them. So the natural consequence of me leaving my bike unchained or not in the garage, not in the backyard, was I came back out to get the bike and the bike was gone. That's a natural consequence around we're leading them, we're guiding them. I didn't have to buy the bike. My mom made the sacrifice to buy the bike. But me not having any skin in the game, I just leave it. And as a result of me leaving it in the front yard, somebody else came along, saw it, and it went home with them. That's a natural consequence. Okay. So if we want our teenagers to demonstrate more gratitude, perhaps we need to allow them to feel natural consequences. Because again, we can't protect them from everything, no matter how hard we try or no matter how much we want to. Fast forwarding, I was 17, 18 years old. It's time for Stephanie to start driving. All my friends were getting cars. All my cousins were getting cars and vehicles. And I'm like, wow, maybe my mom's going to buy me a car. Oh, no, 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 no. She said to me, when you're ready to drive, you will buy your own car. You will buy your own first car. I'm not co-signing for a car. I'm not buying a car. I'm not putting any insurance in my name. And I'm looking at her like, why? Your sisters are buying their kids cars. Why not? My friends' parents are buying them cars. Why can't I get a car? And she said to me, she said, Stephanie, you may not understand this and get this now. She said, but as you grow up and as you get older, you will appreciate your car more purchasing it on your own versus me purchasing it and then giving it to you. Now, again, there are many parents that have been blessed out there with children that do operate in a spirit of gratitude and that are thankful and grateful for what their parents do, what other individuals and adults and influencers do in their lives. But today I can say that I am very thankful that my mom didn't buy me a car when I was 17, 18 years old, because it did allow me to have more skin in the game. Now, many individuals may think, well, you're an only child, so you had to be spoiled. No, I wasn't. My mom was very intentional and deliberate in that. And for that, I'm very thankful and again, grateful because I was able to purchase my first car. I wasn't a teenager, I was in my 20s, and it was a $1,200, and I'm going to date myself here. It was a $1,200 hoopty that was all rusted out, but I took care of it. It was all rusted. I would take it to the car wash. I would get it washed. People would look at me and laugh at me. But again, I had skin in the game because I purchased it myself. So those values really took me a long way, and fast forwarding today to where I can now have appreciation and gratitude for the things that God has blessed me with, even then and now, as well as I work really, really hard not to take things for granted. Okay, so I wanted to share that story with you as we begin to wrap up this episode of Your Best Unleashed with the power of gratitude. It is key and critical that we're mindful of our language, that we share our gratitude with others, that we utilize our gratitude journals, that we use visual reminders of the many blessings that have been bestowed upon us. Okay, and I want to leave you again with a few things of, as we close today, of some things that I am grateful and thankful for. I'm grateful for humor, very grateful for humor. I'm grateful for forgiveness. I'm grateful for support, the support of all of you that are viewers of Your Best Unleashed. I'm grateful for family. I'm grateful for friends. I'm grateful for rest. I'm grateful for this very moment of being with each of you. Philippians 4:8 tells us, finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, commendable, whatever is excellent, if there is anything worthy of praise, think on these things. Ladies and gentlemen, when I think of gratitude, that sums it up in a nutshell. Let's be thankful and grateful of all those things that have been bestowed upon us through the grace and mercy of God. I want to thank each of you for taking your time out. I am grateful for each of you for taking the time out to join me for today's episode of Your Best Unleashed and the Power of Gratitude. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Make it an awesome day.